page 125. Yeah, onto page 125. Actually, she has an exercise on page 126. Find the hidden words. You have a list of words which are hidden in the puzzle below. This could be any direction, going up or down, forward or backward, also diagonally. After finding all these words listed below, unscramble the additional letters. Good Lord, what else is doing here? Which are left in the box and compose a word which will complete the following sentence. Svivarina Ovdimbe. I'm looking at page 126. It's an exercise, I must admit, I never even looked at with former classes. So if you want to have some fun at the end of this major assignment that you'll be doing at home, you have the following instruction. I'm looking at page 126. Find the hidden words. You have a list of words which are hidden in the puzzle below. They can be in any direction, going up or down, forward or backward, and also diagonally, whatever that means. After finding all the words listed below, unscramble the additional letters which are left in the box and compose a word which will complete the following sentence. Svivarina Ovadim Be. And I guess there are 4 letters still left that you can now make a sentence out of it. Correct answer for the missing word can be found in lesson 4, section number 4. Well, don't look at lesson 4 yet. Try to work this out on your own. If you have that ability, after being frustrated with the 4 pages of doing an assignment, then try to play with this one as well. Anyway, it will be good for you to work on your own now. It's a lot of work, it appears. Try to do it on your own, and you got your instructions. And if you can give it in by the end of next week already, that's already towards the end of the semester, that will be fine. I'm going to continue. How's that? The semester's over. Semester's over the end of May, and then the first week or June maybe, whenever it's over. I'm not sure. But I'm going to go on to unit number 5, and if we have time, we'll go to unit 6. But let's just try to do unit number 5. Okay, with my 2 friends in class, let me see what we can accomplish. First thing we'll do is vocabulary words. And you notice words on page 127, the active vocabulary, the word for which, W-H-I-C-H. And every time I say a word, I cannot help but feel another word is said as well. I say the word which, it sounds like a W-I-T-C-H, even though the word written here is which, W-H-I-C-H. And if you speak English as rapidly as Baruch does, my God, you come up with all kinds of words that sound like the word which. You got to be very careful with the English pronunciation. But Yirmiyahu, you're a Brooklyn-born kid, and you say the word which and which, they sound the same. W-I-T-C-H and W-H-I-C-H, which basically recalls a story that happened this morning. Every morning I walk my dogs before I even get ready to go to school, whatever. And today I had to clean my car so I'm able to see outside when I drive. I don't drive every day, and the car gets dirty, the window. And somebody was walking her dog and basically was slowly with her walk. She came up to me in my car and looked like someone I already have seen before. Turned out to be a different person altogether who had one question. What exactly is your license plate say? Which has the phrase Ein Sof. My good friend Baruch knows that phrase. He walks with me to make sure I walk safely to my car. And at my license plate, I have the phrase Ein Sof. In Hebrew, it will be written out something like this, I guess. Ein Sof. In English, it's written this way. And these 2 words represent the ultimate name associated with God in Jewish Kabbalah, in Jewish mysticism. Ein is the Hebrew word, there is not or there are not, and Sof is the Hebrew word for end. So the literal meaning associated with God as God is known in Kabbalah is the phrase Ein Sof. There is no end. There is what? An unlimited God? Is that what's meant by it? And I guess what you can also do is also redirect the words and read it as sof at an end, ain, there is nothing, or there are nothing. If you believe in God to be a trinity, then there are nothing. If God is a singular unity, there is nothing. And I have two religious men sitting in my classroom, including the teacher, and the question now is, are you serious? Does Kabbalah actually maintain that God as God is non-existence? That's what happens when you say nothing. But then, Baruch, of course, you're going to go through an experience in the next couple of days. Got to make sure you stay on this side of heaven and not enter into the heavenly academy. And that is the word nothing is nothing more, Jeremiah, than the word not a thing. So if God as God is nothing, God is not thingness. He is a different experience, a different existence, a different essence. And no any further than that. Wow, that's the Ein Sof. That's the Ein Sof. And then let me show you how it affected my life. We once had classes at night at Valley College. I taught at night. I was a younger man. I had my Krav Maga ability. And I entered my classroom, and then I ended my office work, whatever I had to do there, around 11 o'clock at night. There's nobody around on campus at 11 o'clock at night, except on this night, there was a drunk who was hanging on my car. Jeremiah, what would I do? I should behave and call the police. They're on campus, I hope, or get some help, or did what I did, and I asked this gentleman on my own, gentlemen, could you please get off my car? Are you ready for what happened? The man was drunk, and he basically was curious about my license plate. And in his drunken voice, he said, I shall. I is one. In German it is ein, one. And then the SOF, soldier of fortune. Are you a soldier of fortune? I don't think I ever heard that phrase. I probably did. My response is yes. Right away, he jumped off the car. He walked away from this. I said, don't walk too far. Here's a couple of bucks. I'll take you to that place on Burbank there that's open 24/7, whatever it's called, and get yourself some coffee. But that's what protected me that night. SOF is Soldier of Fortune. I told that story to that woman this morning. I don't know who the hell she is. I also told her I teach. I told her come to class. She's a senior woman who somehow was impressed by a license plate. And now, Baruch, you should be proud of the following. And Yirmiyahu, I am sorry. I've been in a parking lot of restaurants where the license plate by the car that I parked next to had the word Christ on it. There is no way I'm going to park a distance away from where the car called Christ is. I made sure my car was moved all the way over, all the way forward, so that Ein Sof was a little ahead of the word Christ.
Where does that Christ originate from? Is that Greek?
I guess, you mean the word Christos?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, the word is Greek. Yeah. Oh, but the important thing is, even with license plate, apparently you have a license plate with the word Christ on it, which in my opinion is a little vanity, but all right, that's what you want to do. But there's no way that the Christ license plate is going to be ahead of the license plate with Ein Sof. I made sure my car was a little further ahead. It's like driving with a license plate with Yud Hey Vav Hey on it. I mean, you just don't do that. But apparently, and I suspect among Christians, you don't take the Lord's name, Christ, in vain either. And so you got to be careful with this.
Some people get that tattooed on it.
Or tattoos, yeah. There are people that have tattoos with it.
I've seen that.
I'm not aware of any Jew having a tattoo, Yud Hey Vav Hey. If they did, it would really be seen as sacrilegious. But maybe some of them would. I don't know. Or they'll have an abbreviation. I don't know. What they do have in Israel, so I'm told, I don't know, I am told this, is that it's not uncommon to have numbers on your hand. You want to have a tattoo, then have one that has a concentration camp number, and that's the way it is there.
But it's just a fashion for Israelis to have the tattoos. Nowadays, the majority of Israeli women have tattoos.
Now it's well, but in Jewish traditional law, normally a tattoo is not self-imposed. If it's imposed on you, then you can either have it removed. And many Jews that have, swastikas, well, not swastika, but the death camp numbers, whatever, they leave them on their hands. The rabbis basically said, don't remove them. There are those who do, and that's their choice. Anyway, your professor does not have a tattoo. And Israel, if it's having tattoos now, this is the phenomenon of modern age. Okay, having said all of that, and then what happens when you have somebody like I had in my classroom who was a U.S. Marine, who had Semper Fi all over his body, it seems, became a religious Jew or maybe a convert to Judaism, always sat in class with his sleeves all the way up to here. And then they had an argument with an Armenian. The two of them sat down at this table during break, arguing over a biblical passage. And I could tell there was tension. I could tell the Marine was rolling up his sleeves already, and I saw already the tattoo. I said, this is going to be a problem. And the Armenian was no small guy. He was a tall fellow himself. I made sure the two of them walked out of the classroom and had a little conversation together and be peaceful about it and don't argue over a biblical verse. There's no necessary to get that excited about it. Yeah, that's what happens. Once you have somebody from the Marines and they get their tattoos, it's a sign of pride, of privilege, and honor. And all of a sudden they become part of another cult, like becoming a Jew all of a sudden. And they were told Jews don't have tattoos. Then what are they going to do? And I guess they're advised, if you have it, let it be. I don't know what the advice is. I just know that voluntarily traditional Jews don't get tattooed. But now Baruch is telling me, and I know that Israelis are getting tattoos, including women.
Big time, like I would say 60% of the modern Israeli women that are not religious are tattooed.
Okay.
It's just a fashion. The tattoo that goes back to idolatry. So you would say that we have a lot of idolaters now.
Yeah, well, people, it's not for me to comment.
No, it's in the
I mean, tattoos are pretty, but Boris, Yirmiyahu, you have tattoos?
I have one Marine Corps tattoo here.
Yeah. That's probably an initiation into it. It's a secretive group, it's a pride group, etc. The question is,
But that's for purpose.
well, Yirmiyahu, I would be very careful with tattoos in Africa. I ain't sure the Africans take tattoos that easily. If you have a moment, check it out. And you then say, well, what's the hell's wrong with Africa having tattoos? I don't know what the problem would be. If they have something that could go back maybe to origins. And it goes also for Latin America, the Aztecs, the Amazons, who knows what they got going.
Oh, well, tattoos are like all over the world.
All right.
They've been for like since the beginning of time.
Yeah, but what happens, the tattoo that you take, all of a sudden you break from that particular association later on in life. What you going to do about it? You got your tattoo.
Cover up.
Well, that's it.
They put another one, but you can still
I'll
tell.
tell you the problem is when a husband and wife decide to have tattoos of each other when they get married, they were divorced. That's it. What are you going to do now? Or when you have your next companion, what you do on your skin?
Just add your name, like 1, 2, 3.
Well, that's where you got to be careful. You can do that too. All right.
You know the heart, a girl say had a heart, have one name in it, so that's again,
Yeah.
2 or 3 more hearts.
Yeah. No, the tattoos, I guess, that Israelis might have, if they want to have something sentimental to Jewish history, is the.
Most of them are secular or whatever.
Okay. I said if they want to have, then it'll be something like Am Yisrael or something like High. I don't know.
Like the girl in the class, I'm Israel High. Yeah, from last. Remember the girl in the middle? I'm Israel High.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's right. She did have it.
Yeah.
No, people do what they choose to do, and that's it.
They say that one of the main reasons too that our body is unknown to us from Hashem, and it belongs to Hashem, and it's like a temple of God. So that's why we don't have tattoos on it.
You're talking about not having cremation
Or tattoos.
or tattoos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the same concept.
Yeah,
too.
well,
Cremation
that's where you, well, that's,
like you said, once it's on, it's done.
yeah.
Just move on.
Well, then, but there are certain other groups that don't have that type of, prohibition, etc. I just know that the story, in fact, what I'll do is next week when you're back again, Baruch, I'll bring this story about, what's her name, Sybil von Sell, the one that I was the supervisor of, and you'll see Niemöller's second wife. She's the one that got so identified, became a Jew herself, and then at the end didn't tell anybody she was cremated. She wanted it that way, and I can only conclude not that she was a former non-Jew, that's why she was cremated, is her way of identifying with the ashes of the Holocaust, because that's all she talked about when she spoke with me. I would have slapped her if I had any inclination that that was her wish. I would have tried to see if it could be prevented. But all right, things happen. But this is the famous Niemöller and his wife, the second wife of Niemöller. Okay, let me get back to our Hebrew right now. The word Eza and Ezu. I guess whenever you see a line like that, it's her way, Kaufman's way of saying either one is correct. Eza or Ezu. I've heard both phrases multiple times. The translation is the word which, WHICH. Eza. For example, Eza student Lomei Ivrit. Which student is learning Hebrew? Eza Sefer Al HaShulchan, or Ezo Sefer. What book is on the table, or which book rather. All right, the word afo is the word where, afo, and may afo from where. Let's get down that word afo. That word afo is where. And then the word from where, if you want to write it this way, but it's awkward, is the word min. Min is the word from, then min afo. But there's a tendency whenever you see the preposition min to hybrid it or to make it shorter. And so the mem is attached to the word that follows. The nun is assimilated, you might say, into the next letter. And the mem letter would be pointed with its seirei because the original letter aleph cannot get a shazak. If the word that you're attaching the min preposition to can receive a dagesh chazak, then you put the letter mem with a chirik, and then you have the dagesh chazak in the next letter. Take the base blessing, for example. What comes to mind right now is Judaism's basic blessing. It is the blessing if you have bread at the table that will cover all other items at the table. So Yirmiyahu, which you have in Jewish tradition, is if you're eating different foods, you have a blessing for each food that you eat. But if it becomes particularly difficult to remember the different blessings, which they can be, then what you do is you have a piece of bread on the table, make the blessing of the bread, and it covers all the other items that you have to eat. And that blessing is Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. And it's interesting in this case here, Hamotzi Lechem, God, our King, blessed are thou, Lord, our God, King of the universe, Hamotzi. That word motzi is one who brings forth. Motzi. The verb is Yud Sadi Aleph, the verb to go forth. We don't know all the binyanim yet, but if I were to conjugate a peyud verb in the binyan, which is not the PL, but I'm not thinking for a moment. No, it may well be a PL. The other one is a hifil. No, this is a conjugation of the verb, probably in the PL conjugation. Motzi, who brings forth, causes something to come forth. Remember that the PO has three types of definitions. One is emphatic action, one is repetitive action, and one is causative action. So the Yud is now a long cholam. Motzi means not to come forth, but to bring something forward. A motzi, God is acknowledged as the bringer forth, definite article. Hamotzi, one who is the provider, if you want to use that word now. Lechem is the word for bread. Often translates now as food. And then you have the phrase min haaretz. The normal word for land is eretz. However, there's a tendency when you end a word of a sentence, like a word like eretz, if you want to emphasize that word, then you can point to it a kamatz. And notice my problem right now. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. That hey letter has a kamatz under it. The laws of the definite article. If the hey is pointed before the original letter, which has a kamatz, the hey should have a sego under it. It should be min haaretz. If it's written as haaretz. And if this min were contracted, then the word itself should be me haaretz if you want, or me haaretz. See what happens? I know Hebrew grammar, and all of a sudden I got two problems with this word haaretz at the end. Why is the hey not with a segul? And that min letter, why is it fully written out and not shortened? And the only answer I can tell you is that that word who brings forth bread from the earth, that word earth is not just simply the planet earth. It's also a special land within that planet called Eretz Israel. Let me repeat myself. The blessing of the bread and acknowledging God to bring forth the bread from the earth is not necessarily only a universal blessing, but it is a specific acknowledgement that the people are now on the land and the land is now productive and fruitful. And so Min Haaretz is the land of Israel, in addition to it being the earth. Nobody knows that. And you may always want to say, is that taking liberty with that word? Not necessarily. Israelis call the land of Israel Aretz. They don't call it Eretz. They don't even say Eretz Israel. They say, where do you live in Aretz? Are you from Aretz? I come from Aretz. They say the word Aretz.
Is that grammatically incorrect? It is, isn't it?
How's that?
It is grammatically incorrect to say Aretz as they do.
If you want to see it that way.
But to them it's correct because that's the language that's the
Yeah.
lexicon of the language.
Okay, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, to my knowledge, Motzi Lechem Min Haaretz has always been the phrase, and then go back to the period called the rabbis. If they are the ones who initiated the formula of the prayers, then in their own way, as captivity is now setting in, they make sure you don't forget Aretz. And so wherever you're sitting, in Egypt somewhere, in Babylonia somewhere, Syria, in Africa, you will always remember the land. And you do it by taking the minute morsel of food that people used to eat, the stew each day, which is a piece of bread. Do you see how memory keeps the land alive? You're in diaspora, you're in Galut, you're in a death camp somewhere. Hamotzi Lechem. And somehow you acknowledge that God is God, is the one who brings forth the vintage of the land of Israel. And go back to the Korban Pesach and the Pesach Sheni business I talked about. And I guess you only can do that Pesach Sheni business if you have the vintage of the land. Go back to Leviticus 23. And that's what that season is. It's the land is giving forth its vintage. And I guess that's reminded when you say Amotzi Lechem and Aretz. And maybe we don't say Eretz because Aretz has that meaning of the land of Israel as well. And why is the word min found and not me? Maybe it's because the min word is fully written, mem and nun, whereas me is hyphenated.
How do you say earth again?
Earth is our Eretz.
Okay. What's Aretz?
Aretz is also earth, but it's no, it's not. It's just a unique way of saying Eretz. It means unusual earth or the earth. Let's double check if there's any distinction here.
Because I'm looking here, it says, first it says, Hadur ha'eretz. Something like that, that's what it says for earth.
It says what before?
Hadur ha'eretz.
Hadur?
Yes, Khadur, then ha'eretz. That's the whole word, that's what it says here for earth.
Kadur? Kadur means a planet, or means, Kadur is a ball. It's also the Hebrew word for a planet, which is shaped like a ball.
And then Kaduri comes from that?
How's that?
Kaduri comes from that, do you think? Kaduri?
I don't know.
And then it says like as a noun, it can mean land, earth, ground, soil.
That's right. It could mean all those things. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But let me just take a look here for a second. Let me look at the Hebrew Eretz. Just bear with me. And that word Aretz. Let me see if they have a word Aretz here. Okay, we're getting close to it. Let's read these pages. Okay. All right, the word Eretz is translated as earth, country, or lands. They have the word Artsah translated as territory. Artsah also means going to the lands. Aretz itself is not written. All right, let me review this with you right now. I stand on what I said. Earth, land, and country for Eretz. Okay, not a problem with that. All right, let's get down that word. The word is Eretz. It means a number of things now. Yeah, normally I would have said earth alone. But Eretz translates as earth, country, and land. All right, if we take the word Eretz meaning country, then add the word Eretz Israel, or rather land, the land of Israel, Eretz Israel. I guess it would also translate as country Israel, country of Israel, Eretz Israel. Land, earth, country. The United States of America. Well, before I get there, the plural of that word Eretz is Artzot. And notice the ending has a cholam tav. Notice that the singular looks masculine because it does not have the three signs of a feminine singular. But I also said that in Hebrew, names of countries, lands, etc. are all feminine. Let me double check if he has something here about the gender of Eretz. Yeah, it's feminine. Even though the singular looks masculine. Don't be thrown by that tzadi at the end. That's not a masculine marker. It's not a feminine marker. The plural has a feminine marker that does not determine the gender of a noun. The gender is seen in the singular. But then there's that rule that I told you: all countries, all states, all cities, whatever, they're all feminine. And indeed, the word eretz, that very word for land, country, earth, is feminine. The plural is artsot. So artsot will be translated as lands, countries, states, I guess. And the official name in Hebrew for United States is Artsot. Artsot Habrit.
That's the United States?
The official name in Hebrew for the United States are the countries, the lands, the states. That's how you know it today, United States, the states of the covenant. And ain't that interesting? That word covenant, that word agreement, understanding, unity. Do you think it's just like that the word Brit Milah, the circumcision rite, is called by that term Brit? When that circumcision is done on that 8th day, then that Jewish child is now covenantally related to the God, to the people, to the land, to the Torah of Israel. Well, can we say the same about the baptism? But the baptism is water, and the water evaporates. The circumcision mark cannot be erased. Can I take a secret to you right now? And Baruch, don't get angry. A number of these Nazis probably had a circumcision mark. Or reverse it. If you suspected that that Nazi officer was of Jewish background, you would tell him, strap your pants. Aryan Germans did not circumcise. There's a story out now of German officials who had Jewish wives, and what did they do with them? Kill them, hid them, protected them. They were voices to murder, but not their own wife. Go figure this. And there's also a theory that Hitler comes from some kind of Jewish DNA. I can't accept that under any circumstances. But Professor Garber, you have to accept academic, findings if it's indeed so. You have no idea what your backgrounds are. Anyway, the Artsot Habrit. And why that word Aretz? I guess it's not even in the dictionary, you could say. It's my way of suggesting it is a unique word which implies earth and has the other meaning, the land of Israel. The Motzi Lechem min haaretz is that God is acknowledged as the provider of the food from the land, and that land is Israel. In other words, the people are sustained by God's providential caring or supervision. And that's when the rains don't come, and then what do? Don't you get it? God is interwoven with nature. And there's no doubt in my mind that there's a verse that's recited 3 times in the Pentateuch, as recited in conjunction with the start of summer. Lo tevashel, you are not to cook a kadi, a kid, a goat, a young goat, in its mother's milk. Lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo. Do not cook a kid in his mother's milk. It's found after the holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot is 7 weeks after the holiday of Pesach. Shavuot is the giving of the Torah, the giving of the Ten Commandments. And then right afterwards, Jeremiah and Baruch, is the season of Kayetz, the end. What symbolism is found in that? Do you understand the power of these symbols? Torah is that which sustains us. And the next day starts the end, the summer. No more rain. No more nature providing. It's just incredible to see symbolism this way. But what about the cooking of kids' mother's milk? Has nothing to do with Israelite tradition. It's Ugaritic. It's Canaanite. It's a rain ritual. Take a living animal, cooking its mother's milk, pouring the milk on the ground, and by that process, bringing on the rains. So it is interpreted. At UCLA, I learned that verse in a Ugaritic class I took, Ugaritic language.
That they're sacrificing the calf to the demons of the field in order to bring forth.
Okay. But this issue of cooking a kid in its mother's milk is strange. Why if you're offering it as an offering, why the milk of the mother? And Yirmiyahu, that might well be a powerful symbol of why you don't have meat that you just cook, drinking it with the milk of the cow whom you killed to have the meat. See how the symbolism works? Separate death from life. And then probably the story that you need to hear, Yirmiyahu, and Baruch is going to have to understand as well. On the holiday of Pentecost, you read the Ten Commandments found in the book of Exodus, not the one in Deuteronomy. And you also read a special book from the Bible. The book deals with Ruth. Ruth is the foreigner. She's the one who tells her mother-in-law, your people is now my people. Don't dismiss me. The Moabite, the group that is cursed, I can't join with us. And the rabbis have a way of twisting that around, saying it's the men, not the women. And from Ruth, you get King David. And from David, you get Jesus. I find it unbelievable that there are 2 books of the Hebrew Bible, of the 24 books, which have a woman's name. One is Esther, and one is Ruth, and both of them are not Jewish. It's off the wall. And my fellow Jews are totally ignorant of this. And that's where you play a role, Yirmiyahu. The Gentile has a role to play in the perpetuation of the Torah. You are at the very center. And if you want to go African on me, you got Moses with his wife over there. And David as well. Solomon, definitely. And African tribes that claim to be Jewish, they don't let you forget that either. In fact, they won't even mix with other groups if they're not pure. So you want to talk about mixture with other groups, there's one group there called the Zamta, whatever they call themselves, the Lamta group. They ain't going to mix with any Africans. You're not part of the priestly cult. It's nice to see this, and it gets very complicated after a while, but that's it. When I read a headline now that 4 women are responsible for the Jewish Ashkenazi population, it's off the wall. 4 different women. Baruch, I want you to check your DNA. You may well have, in fact, you do have. You have Moroccan black road, you're going to have certain kinds of DNA.
I'm not interested in pseudoscience.
Yeah.
You know?
And then you find out that the Palestinians themselves, who call themselves Arabs, throw them out the window. They're not Arabs at all. Also, the Palestinians, and this is a fact, a number of them come from ancient Israel. And some of them know that, by the way, and they say, don't say that about us out loud.
I'll tell you right now, as far as that.
Then what are you going to do with these people? If they come from ancient Israel, is it time to bring them back home again? And they have that curiosity. Are we really Israelites? People, you don't understand how mixed up the Jews are.
Are they Hittites, Jebusites?
I don't know what they are. All I know is you got 7 tribes. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. You got that thing to deal with. All I know is you got a group called the Pashtuns, or whatever they call themselves, who not only let you know that they're Jews, they face Jerusalem, they keep Shabbat, and they're all over Afghanistan or Pakistan, wherever they are. And Ben-Zvi himself is the one who said they're Jews, and so did Ben-Gurion. What if they want to come back to Israel? Don't know what will be done. All I know is it's no longer a shock to hear this. And the main thing is Palestinians are not Arabs, and we've got to get that thought across. And it's our business with Arabs is due to Muhammad and Islam. Otherwise, these groups are not Arab groups.
I think that's kind of hard to trace though, because.
But what are you going to do if you got a DNA that seems to say this, bro?
They said those more nations than you could say it goes back to Ishmael. Is that they're Arab or Jew? It's more complicated than that, because you have the, like say, the Phoenicians, you had the Canaanites,
Yes, you do.
had that. So you can't just dichotomize it for that
Okay.
reason into those
Okay.
two. And those theories, I mean, in my opinion, are wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's the way it is. It may be accurate, it may be factual, maybe this, maybe that. But the world as we see it now is in an actual different dimension. If they claim they are this way, Palestinians and not from the word Philistia, from the word Philistine or whatever, so be it. What can you do about it? Anyway, let me get back now to our Hebrew. But that's Motzi Lechem in Aretz, and that word Aretz, even though it's not in the dictionary, I just double checked. Keep in mind, it's that phrase that we do use for the blessing of the bread. And in my opinion, it's not my opinion, it's others as well, it probably has a connection with the land of Israel as part of earth, as earth is earth. Okay, the word AFO and May AFO, she doesn't bother to actually vocalize May AFO, but if you were to vocalize that word from where, then underneath the mem there'll be a tsere, because the aleph letter cannot take a dagesh chazak. Then you get the word el. I'm looking at that word el. I see the aleph lamed. I'm working for unvocalized Hebrew. What stops me from not saying the word el? The aleph lamed by itself can also be read as el, E-L in English. And El is one of the names associated with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, another name associated with the Hashem word. El, however, is strictly not of Hebrew, quote, Jewish background. It's a foreign term, but it's been adopted in Jewish tradition, and it's now a synonymous term for God as well. But she doesn't have that in mind. She has the word El. Notice I said el with a tsere, and el with a sago is the preposition to. And that word el, let me go into it more further. That word el is the longer way of writing the word lamed. The lamed by itself is nothing more than the word el. So there are 2 ways to write the word el. Aleph lamed, or you abbreviate it as a lamed attached to the word that follows. The same thing is true about the word min. It can be written as a complete word, or it can be written as a chirik or a tsere, depending on how the word that follows occurs, whether it could take it as dagesh chazak or not. Anyway, she doesn't give the complete story. I will give you more than she gives you. And then you got the word Eretz. All right, here the word Eretz she translates as the word country. And then if you look at the plural, the word Aratzot. She writes the word Aratzot. I wrote the word Aratzot. Or maybe the word Aratzot means countries of, and Aratzot is the word for countries as an absolute noun. Yes, I stand to be corrected. The word is Aratzot. Okay, I guess I got 2 influenced by the word Artzot. Let me explain this right now. Many times I mentioned that a noun has three different states. Take the word eretz. Eretz by the word by itself is the absolute state of the word. Absolute. Land is translated as land or a land. Second state for every given noun is the definite state. You add your definite article. Ha-eretz. I'm playing with that word eretz, not with the word for Israel. Ha-eretz will be the land. And notice the hay is pointed with a kamatz, the aleph cannot take a dagesh chazak. Then the third state for a given noun is the construct state. It so happens that if the word has two segos, the construct will be the same as the absolute. Eretz could also mean land of, as in Eretz Israel, land of Israel. So Eretz is the word land or a land. It also means land of. Let's now take that word in the plural. The word in the plural is aratzot. Then the definite state, as your definite article, ha'aratzot. Again, the hay with a kamatz. And then the construct is artzot. It's not aratzot, it's artzot, which means lands of, countries of, states of. A construct means, it depends on the next word. It's possessed. And that's where we get artzot habrit. Not aratzot habrit, but artzot habrit, countries of the covenant, or lands of the covenant, or states of the covenant.
Question, isn't, for the word the, isn't that L for the word the? L is L, right?
El means two.
The is ha.
The word the is the ha letter, ha.
L, okay.
And Jeremiah, keep in mind that the ha letter has different points. There's a patach under it, has a kamatz under it. Depends on the next word that follows. The definite article is not written by itself. It's attached to the word that follows. And if the word that follows has a laryngeal letter with a kamatz under it, the hay is pointed with a segol. Now notice what she has here. She has eretz. Eretz, the accent that's on that first syllable, as she indicates whenever there's an accent, not the last syllable, she puts that marker there. And then aratzot means countries. And then the special name for Israel, the country, the phrase is haaretz, which means the land, you might say. Why doesn't it have it haaretz? Why is there a kamatz under it? I don't know, except that it is meant to be a unique word to refer to a specific subject, and that is the country of Israel. And now you can understand with the motzi lechem min haaretz. If the word haaretz is an Israeli or Hebrew phrase to refer to only one specific country, namely the land of Israel, then what do you do with the blessing, Hamotzi Lechem, God brings forth the bread from the earth, or is it specifically from the land of Israel? And again, have both meanings in mind. Living on the land is like coming home. Now expelled from the land, or never getting to the land, you always remember the land whenever you have a morsel of food. Not a steak, can't afford that. Chas v'chalila, God forbid, not a piece of ham, that will leave for the Christians. But everybody, the poorest among us, has a piece of bread, a morsel, a matzah. When you do that second Passover, have a piece of matzah. And think about it. When you guys have your breakfast in the morning, do you not have some bread? Or maybe you don't. But the bread is a reminder of Min Haaretz, because you have to say that blessing. I can recall giving a talk at King's University. King's University is in Dallas. It is a Christian evangelical school which has a large department that's called Judaism. It's run by Messianic Jews. It's also supported by the Church on the Way, the big church that's located on Roscoe Sherman Way.
Is it a mega church? Is it big?
How's that?
Is it big? Is it like a mega church?
Church on the Way is a very large church. Yeah, Pastor Jack was there. He's passed on. You have others. You have two major churches not far from this campus, and they both oppose each other. One of them has the Pastor John somebody, and this one has Jack. Jack has passed on. But the Church on the Way has a Messianic leadership there, and I was invited by their leadership to give a talk, and the topic was, why or how does an Orthodox Jew deal with Christians? It was meant to be an instructive type of lecture. It was a wonderful, it's on tape, by the way. Kick in the word Zev Garber at King's University. You'll see the lecture. Now, the reason, the one that invited me, his name was David Rudolph. I go to his house before the lecture itself at the university, and we sit down for a kosher meal. His wife is Asian. She's a convert to Messianic Judaism, for want of better description. There's one of his children sitting at the table. And every item we're about to eat, this girl, young teenager, maybe a late teenager, said a blessing in Hebrew over this, over that, over that, over this. I'm sitting there with proper respect. I'm saying, my goodness, she knows all the blessings. She's a Jewish believer in Jesus. She's saying blessings as if she comes from an Orthodox home in Williamsburg somewhere. And it doesn't shock me. Messianics truly believe they got to follow the rabbinic Judaism that Jesus also advocated. And once you get that into your head this way, there's no end to this. A Gentile doesn't need to go that far. A Jewish Messianic, according to what I'm understanding, needs to. In fact, it comes out in the debate. When I'm introduced as a Jew who's about to bring all Christians to Judaism, that's how I was introduced. It's meant to be a joke. I said, if that's how you're going to introduce me, David, then I'll follow through with that. Not really, but basically the idea was, how does a person of my background get involved with Jew Christianity, this type of thing? But the important thing is the young woman was able to say blessing over this and that. And I said to David, if you could bring some bread in from the kitchen, just don't have to go over all the blessings this way. He's aware of that too. Okay, the word Doar. Next word, Doar. Again, notice the word is written with vowels with a media cholam, and the media cholam, whatever occurs in the word, is always accented. I shouldn't say that. The media cholam is, yes. When you read Hebrew without vowels, how can you tell the vav that follows, whether that's meant to be a media cholam or a long cholam? That's why writing Hebrew without vowels can be very tricky and also disorganized if you're learning for the first time or for many times. It's a vocalized Hebrew that will tell you what the true nature of the vowel should be.
That's male, correct?
That's what?
Male. The word
Male, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, male.
Yeah,
The other word male would be M-A-L-E, and then the word that has post office by it is meant to be that. A doar can mean mail, mail that you receive, like the mail I received this morning with the Catholic Biblical Quarterly and having my review on a book called The Prophets. What's interesting about that review, I submitted it last June. I made reference to the word Zion, which is part of this book. I made reference to the current situation in Israel and Gaza a year ago. And I looked at my review a year later today, and my goodness, what I said then is so true right now. Apartheid, genocide, colonialism. And this is an academic review of a book called The Prophets, written by 3 Christians, and the role of the name Zion in prophetic Hebrew Bible literature. And Jeremiah, I don't think you would disagree. When you see the word Zion, Jerusalem in the Hebrew Bible, it has nothing to do with Palestine, and it has nothing to do with things called colonialism, apartheid, and genocide. And these are Christians who write the book. And I write it in my paragraph. And then I add that the book also does consider Palestinian claims to land as well. But the Bible itself seems to speak of a people, Israel, and the land of Zion. And that might explain why evangelical Christians are very, how can I put it? They're very excited when Jews come back to the land, believing that that's a sign of the redemption with the coming of Jesus. On page 128, the word dira. Dira is one of the first words you learn in Hebrew. I can tell you from my own experience. My family made Aliyah. I was 17 years old or thereabouts, and the apartment we lived in was called a dira. That word enters into every other language spoken in Israel. You speak French, you have the word dira. You speak Russian, you have the word dira in your vocabulary. People did not own homes. They had a dira. Dira is an apartment building, or an apartment, I should say. The plural is dirot. And notice in the unvocalized Hebrew, there is the brackets, and the letter Nun stands for the Keva, the word is feminine. The letter Zion stands for Zahar, the word is masculine. The next word, Cheder. Cheder. Well, what does Cheder look like? It's a singular noun. Let's go back over some review right now. Cheder is a singular noun, and the plural is Shva, Kamatz, Kirkud, Mem. Let's take that word Yeled. Yeled was one of the first words I taught you regarding the word Segelet. You have the word Yeled. The plural would be a Shva, a Kamatz, a Kirkud, Mem. Yeladim. Have the word Kesev, Kesev, silver, Kesev, money. Let's make this a final fade. The plural would be Kesafim. Have the word Melech, king. Basic words, Melachim. And now we have the word Cheder. What you've got to keep in mind is rules that we already taught you. Cheder, singular noun. You basically will write Chedarim. You look at that word and say there's a problem. The original letter has a shva under it. That's not going to be possible. You replace it with one of the chatafim, and it's a chatapata. So cheder is chadarim, not chidarim. And the word cheder means a room. The word cheder also means school. School, school, particularly among the Ashkenazim. They refer to a school as a cheder.
That's more like an elementary school, isn't it?
Yes. A cheder is a Yiddish phrase. It's a play upon the word cheder and refers to a school. Children, they go to a cheder. Cheder in my youth was the afternoon school you went to if you came from a religious background, if you went to public school. But religious kids did not go to public school like me. They went to a yeshiva, which meant the public school was elementary, was given in the afternoon, secular subjects, and in the morning we had intensified Jewish topics, Bible, the Talmud, whatever. But cheder is Yiddish. Is it part of Israeli Hebrew? It's a borrowed word, it's Israeli Hebrew. Cheder means a room. A cheder is also a classroom. This is
Also what?
a classroom, a cheder. Kita is class. Cheder is a classroom. All right, the next word, chadashot. Notice in brackets, she puts the nun and the resh. Nun means the keva, resh means plural, rabim. The word for news in Hebrew, and this is specifically news items, not the word new in the plural, news. In English, the word news is a singular word. We say the news is great. We don't say the news are great, even though an S ending word is in English a sign of the plural. But there are a number of words in English where an S is found and it's a collective sign. It means the word is a plural word. In Hebrew, the word is a collective word. We don't have a singular word for news item. It's in a plural and it's feminine. Chadashot. The root of that word chadashot is chet dalet shin, the word new. From that chet dalet shin, we have the word chodesh, the word moon, the month. So the word chadash, chadashah, as an adjective, new. Chadashot is news, and it's feminine and it's plural. Lama, we've seen that word now a number of times. The dagesh in that mem is not meant to close a short kamatz underneath the lamed. The kamatz underneath the lamed is a medial kamatz. The dot in the mem is a dot for the beauty of reading. The dagesh, the tiferet hakriya. Lama is one of the words that has it. Again, why is the accent over that lamed? If the accent is not over the lamed and the kamatz is followed by a mem with a dagesh in it, then you assume that the kamatz is a kamatz katan, is a short kamatz. It's a medial one. And a medial kamatz doesn't have to be closed, but it is closed, so it gets accented. The word ma'od means very, as in very good, tov ma'od. Ma'od. As you see the word pointed, the aleph has a medial cholam following it. Yafeh ma'od, very nice. Anytime you use the word very. The word is ma'amar, the next word. The plural is ma'amarim. The translation is an article, a news item. The root of that word ma'amar is the word to say. Aleph mem resh is the Hebrew word to speak. Vayomer, God said, or the word say, I should say. So that's interesting. You take these three letters and it deals with utterance. Aleph mem resh. As a verb, it's conjugated, it's a pei aleph verb. Again, keep in mind whenever you see verbs with original letters, you identify the Gizrata family by where the original letter is found. First root letter, so it's a pei aleph verb. If we're in the middle of the word, it's an ayin aleph. If we're the last letter, it's a lamed aleph. A pei aleph verb conjugated in the present tense is omer, like shomer, omeret, like shomeret, omerim, like shomerim, omerot, like shomerot. It's like a regular shlemim verb. And then when it comes to the infinitive, remember we have shemor, we have the lamed, we have a shvach cluster. The lamed takes on the pointing of the chirik, lishmor. The same thing goes with the emor word. Only now we have a hataf sagol, emor. We don't have immor. The aleph does not take a dashana like the shin does. And replaces it by one of the chatafim, the chataf sagol. The lam comes along, The schwa cluster is there. The lamed takes over the sound of the chataf. And so it is le'emor. Le'emor. And then there's the biblical way of saying it, lamor. So there are two ways of saying to say, lamor or le'emor. This is more Israeli Hebrew. This is more biblical. And from Aleph Mem Resh to say something, I guess you get the word an article. Ma'amar. The word should be written this way, first of all. There's your Aleph Mem Resh, and there's the letter Mem. The letter Mem, I told you, is normally a prefix letter. If you have to find the root of a word that has more than 3 letters, always eliminate or suspend the first letter or the last letter. That letter Mem stands for either the word me, who, or ma, what. So in the case of ma, with Aleph and Resh, the answer is what is being said. And an article is what's being said. That's how you understand that mem as a first letter of the word, if it's not part of the root. I'm suggesting it should be mamar like that. But how come the chatapata? It's no doubt because the shvanah underneath the aleph opened up. Opened up. It did not keep the silent shvanah. So when you have it, it doesn't say it's mamar, it opens up with a chatapata, ma'amar. And if that's so, slavication is CV like this, and you say the patach is potentially closed. Originally was a shvanach underneath the aleph, but the way it's written now, the aleph has a chatach patach under it, so CI and CVC. Please note that the patach should be part of a closed syllable. The shvanach on the aleph opened up to a chatach patach. It's called secondary opening. When a shvanach should be there and it's not, it's opening up. It's secondary opening. Ma'amar is an article. Even though article is something written and ma'amar is something that is said. So Yirmiyahu would say, well, should it not be corrected? If it's something written, then should the word ma'amar have something to do with writing, not with something spoken? And I guess the only answer I can give you, before there are newspapers, communication was communicated by the spoken word. Look at your Bible. God spoke to Moses. God said to Moses. God did not write to Moses. The one big exception that comes to mind is the Holiday of Shavuot. You have that fire out of heaven, and you have the 10 words. And notice the English. The 10 commandments, with the Hebrew, Aseret Dibrot, the 10 words. Not commandments. It doesn't say Aseret HaMitzvot. The 10 words that are spoken. The word Dibrot for the word Ledaber, to speak. It's how a country or how a culture understands communication. That's how they'll translate it. Doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just a different background that's behind it. The next word is min. And notice what Edna does. She writes the word min in the unvocalized Hebrew, the letter mem with 3 dots that follow. It's her way of saying the word min is not found as a full word. It's contracted. The nun assimilates it to the next letter. The mem is either pointed with a chirik or pointed with a tzere.
That from?
Yes,
Okay.
but now we have a problem. That word min, I say this because I have two Ravakim in this classroom. I say it because there are no women sitting here. I say this because I'm an old man now. I don't want you to make a mistake. Yirmiyahu, I want for leaders. The word min is a word from. If you write the word min with a yud, you have another word, mean. Well, why not write it with a yud? After all, I'm writing unvocalized Hebrew. Can't I put a yud in there to create the e sound? Be very careful. Hebrew does have a word, mem long kirik nun. This word means sex, gender. Gender. So when a woman says, Jeremiah, what's your mean? She wants to make sure she's not messing with some kind of bi-gender person. You say Zachar, or say it's none of your business. The word is gender. That word also gets interchanged with sex. But what is meant by sex is not coital contact. It means sexual definition.
What is coital contact? Lishko?
Again, the word?
Coital contact. What is the Hebrew word for that?
I'm not sure. What word did you say?
Lishka? Lishko?
Could well be. Sure to tell you how much of a celibate I am. Min is gender. Min is from.
3 wives later, that's hard to believe.
Anyway, Edna is okay. She gives you all kinds of extra things, but it needs more explanation. The next word is iton. As long as we have the word ma'amar for a newspaper item or an article, then why not have the word for newspaper? Iton is newspaper. Again, notice the unvocalized Hebrew, the ayin followed by the yud. The vocalized Hebrew, short chirik underneath the ayin, dagesh chazak in the tav, which explains why the unvocalized has the ayin yud tav vav nun. What's interesting about the word iton is that the origin is the word eight, ayin tav. Unless I make an error in my memory, I just want to make sure that the word eight means a period of time, which I believe it means. And if that's so, you can see how newspaper gets its origin. I'm double checking the word eight. It's ayin tav. Yes, ayin tav, eight. The translation is time or occurrence. Let's get down 2 words for this. The word eight. You can almost see how words develop. You have an existing word in Hebrew, eight. Not to be confused with the word et. Et is your marker of a direct object that's definite. Eight exists. A newspaper comes around, let's assume in the 19th century, before that, whatever, and you need a new word for it in Hebrew. And so the word comes up as iton. And what does a newspaper do? A newspaper, I guess, reports events of the time. And so it's logical to have the word eight, which means time, occurrence, and the word newspaper, iton. And I guess in English you have the word newspaper, it relates to the word news. And news looks like the word new. And isn't that what news are all about? Something new has happened, something new is repeating.
So Eton is newspaper or paper?
How's that?
Eton?
Iton is a newspaper. And for that word eight, you have the word team. Looking at the dictionary, he also gives the word team. I guess it's written this way. Team means sometimes. There might be a yud after the ayin. Let me just double check. the word for sometimes. Leitim. Just double check that word. Yeah. It's a short hieroglyph, I thought. Okay. Yeah, the way I wrote it. Leitim. That word eight is there. The word means time, occurrence. And if you have the word as li'itim, that means sometimes. Sometimes. Iton is newspaper. And the root of the whole word is eight, which means a period of time. It's very important whenever you see words in English, try to relate them to other words that look the same and see the kesher, see the connection. I just used the word in my English. See the kesher. Kesher is a good word to know. And the way in which you can pick up some Hebrew is speak your English, but throw in these Hebrew words in your English sentences. The word kesher, first thing you could tell me, it's a singular noun. The plural will be kesharim. Kesher means a connection. Okay, let's finish up the vocabulary. The next word is asuk. Asuk is busy, a good word to know. Feminine word is asuka. Why can't you meet me at 5 o'clock tonight? Because ani asuk, I am busy. And the female would say ani asuka. And now look at the spelling of asuka. By now you should know. Asuk, immediate hamatzinit 2 syllables, CV, CVC. The word for the plural, asuka, the kamatz is now 2 places removed with the additional syllable, the kamatse, and reduces to a shvana. The ayin cannot take the shvana, the chatzapatak replaces asuka. I want to check that word asuk. Asuk is busy, I know that. But a word comes to my mind right now. Let me just see if he has it. I'm looking up the roots ayin samech kuf. Yeah, asek. All right, the word is asek. Asek is business. Asek is business. Underneath the ayin, there's a tsere and a sego underneath the samach. Asek is occupation, he writes here. Okay, don't have to go any further. The word asek, business. If you're busy, what's your asek? What's your business? What are you busy with? So asek is business. Asuk is busy. And so it goes on. And it's also used as a verb. It's a pei verb. Okay, the next word is radio. That word radio is possible 25 years ago. How many people you know that word radio today? I don't know. Nobody uses radios anymore. Maybe they do.
Well, not like the old school ones. Some people have the NOAA radios, the emergency ones, but the radios.
I don't know from anything. All I know is that radio.
That's how you say it.
Now, well, the question is, if you look at the word radio, she has the accent mark over the patach, and I guess you say to yourself, well, shouldn't there be a dagesh in the dalid, and it should be closed with a dagesh chazak, radio, or maybe a shvanach in the dalid, radio. I say radio. She does not indicate a dagesh chazak in the dalid with a vocalized Hebrew. She doesn't put anything underneath the dollar like a shvanach. And she just puts the accent on the resh. What Edna Coffin could be doing is following the following. If a word is borrowed into Hebrew language, we don't bother with Hebrew rules. But I'm going to double check that word radio. I say it as radio, which implies I'm putting a dagesh hazak in the dalet. Let me see in my vocalized Hebrew dictionary, first if the word radio is found, or radio, and we'll get that across to you right now.
No, I'm sorry. Hey, how far do both you think we'll get by the time that we're done by class?
How's that?
Or to what the section do you think we'll get to by the end of the semester? Will we go to 6 or 7?
No, you do the exercise that you have to do. I'm going to do some more Hebrew with you. Yeah, you're going to be working to the last moment. It's okay. You're going to enjoy it. Let me just double see. I'm not seeing the word radio at all. Okay. Just no, no, I don't see it. All right, this dictionary, going up and down, does not bother to have the word radio. Okay, I don't see it in the Hebrew. The only explanation I can possibly give is that the word is a foreign word, you might say. Let me take a look at the English. I mean, dictionaries are selective, I guess. All right, the word is not found. Yes, it is. My mistake. It's not found in the Hebrew to English. It's found from English to Hebrew. Radio. Okay. Edna says radio. The dictionary I just looked at has vocalized the word this way. You see that word vocalized this way? The resh has a patach. The shva needs the next letter is a shvanach. Radio. Radio. Professor Garber says the word as radio. Radio. She writes it as radio. 1 minute. What am I doing wrong here? Let me see Kafa's way of writing it. She puts a resh, a dalet. Yeah. Okay. The vocalization by Edna Coffin is this way. With nothing underneath the dalet. Anyway, the only explanation I can give, if a word is borrowed into a language, then different pronunciations will be offered. Okay, I think you'll take the break right now. And let me just say what we're doing. You got those 4 or 5 pages. Try to do them at home carefully. Bring them in sometime next Thursday. If you can't do it then, bring it in the week after. And we're still going to do some Hebrew. So that's how it goes. All right, thank you for coming. Stick around. I'll come back around 10, around 1:20, I guess. Yeah, we still have a good class.